The WNBA commissioner is losing her mind over Caitlin Clark and the LPGA Tour, right? Because ever since she shocked the world with her amazing golf skills, she now finds herself in hot water with the higher-ups in the WNBA. Because the name Caitlin Clark has become something bigger than basketball, it's become a phenomenon that's cracking open the entire landscape of women's sports. But here's where things get interesting. Actually, scratch that. Fascinating. The WNBA, the very league designed to showcase the best women's basketball in the world, is now facing a challenge they never saw coming. And it's not from a rival basketball league. It's not from overseas competition. No, this threat is coming from an entirely different playing field. The golf course. I know what you're thinking. Golf. Really? But stay with me, because what's unfolding right now is a masterclass in modern sports business, cultural warfare, and the kind of high-stakes maneuvering that would make even the most cutthroat corporate executives take notes. Because Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever superstar who single-handedly reshaped expectations for women's basketball, has just signed something nobody anticipated. A groundbreaking multi-year ambassador and performance deal with the LPGA. And we're not talking about some minor endorsement here. Sources are whispering about an 8-figure arrangement. 8 figures. For golf. The deal includes promotional campaigns, business partnerships, charity competitions, and here's the kicker, the possibility of Clark actually appearing in celebrity pro-am events on the course. For those who've caught glimpses of her at charity golf outings, you know she's got a surprisingly natural swing. But almost no one predicted this. Not at this scale. Not with this kind of cross-sport synergy that's sending shockwaves through executive offices in both sports. So why does this matter? Because empires aren't just built on talent anymore. They're built on narrative, on brand, on cultural dominance. And right now, two major women's sports leagues are engaged in something far more complex than friendly collaboration. They're fighting for the same crown jewel, and that jewel has a name. Let's talk about what really happened when the LPGA made their announcement. Because on the surface, it seemed innocent enough, a celebration of excellence, a partnership between two pillars of women's athletics, standard PR fare, right? Wrong. During the press conference, LPGA Commissioner Molly Morrison delivered what seemed like a glowing compliment. She praised Clark as representing the kind of leadership and global impacts to any single sport. She called her the peak of what it means to advance women's sports globally. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Almost innocent. But according to insiders within the WNBA, those words landed like a grenade in the middle of their strategy meeting. Because the subtext, intentional or not, was crystal clear. Caitlin Clark's true platform for global influence might be bigger outside of the WNBA. Can you imagine the tension in that moment? Picture it. WNBA executives staring at screens, watching another league frame their star, their most valuable asset, as someone who belongs to the broader sports world, not just basketball. One insider allegedly remarked, "It's like they're trying to poach the face of our league and frame it as a collaboration." Another went further, stating that the LPGA had deliberately positioned themselves around Clark's visionary influence, a narrative the WNBA has spent years building, investing millions in marketing campaigns, TV deals, and fan engagement strategies centered around her meteoric rise. This wasn't just about a partnership, this was perceived as a strategic invasion, a calculated play for cultural territory using the very athlete who revitalized women's basketball. So here's the question nobody's asking out loud but everyone's thinking. Why would the LPGA risk antagonizing another major women's sports league? The answer? Survival through relevance. Let's be brutally honest here. Women's golf, particularly in the United States, struggles for consistent mainstream attention. Outside of major tournaments, media coverage is sporadic at best. The LPGA has been actively hunting for ways to capture a younger, broader audience, to break through the noise of an oversaturated sports market. And who better to achieve that than the most watched female athlete in America? Caitlin Clark's collegiate games shattered viewership records. Her WNBA debut became one of the most watched women's basketball broadcasts in history. She doesn't just draw crowds, she creates cultural moments. The LPGA deal is textbook modern sports business. It's not about golf technique or athletic crossover. It's about aligning with a global phenomenon, about hitching your brand to a rocket ship that's already launched. And the numbers? They don't lie. Within 24 hours of the announcement, the LPGA's social media engagement exploded by 72%. Co-branded merchandise lines sold out in hours. The LPGA didn't just gain an ambassador, they tapped into something that transcends sport itself. But flip the coin and you'll see a very different picture. One painted in shades of anxiety and territorial defensiveness. This agreement reportedly caught WNBA officials completely off guard. Details were kept locked down tight until the LPGA's official announcement went live. While Clark's team was obviously in the loop about cross-sport discussions, league insiders felt blindsided, ambushed, even. The sentiment from within WNBA headquarters? One communications director allegedly lamented, "We've built so much around Caitlin. Every promotional campaign, every broadcast partnership, she's the centerpiece. Now the LPGA is interfering with her narrative. And it's not just executives feeling the squeeze. Some WNBA players have expressed concerns, albeit carefully. One player, speaking anonymously, called the golf deal a distraction, suggesting that building the WNBA should take absolute precedence over balancing multiple sports. It's a valid concern. The WNBA is still in a critical growth phase, fighting for consistent media coverage, fair compensation, and mainstream recognition. Their focus, many would argue, needs to remain laser-sharp on their own product. But here's where things get complicated. Here's where we enter murky, uncharted territory. What if Caitlin Clark's expansion into other sports is actually good for women's athletics? What if a star elevating multiple sports simultaneously demonstrates the true marketability and crossover appeal of female athletes? The counter-argument exists that Clark's success in multiple arenas proves women's sports can sustain global superstars who transcend individual leagues, that this isn't a zero-sum game. But the WNBA isn't convinced, and their deepest fear, whispered in private conversations behind closed doors, isn't about Clark picking up a golf club for charity events. It's about her immense cultural influence gradually shifting away from their league entirely. Think about it, Caitlin Clark is currently the engine driving WNBA viewership. Her presence translates into massive merchandise sales, soaring television ratings, and unprecedented mainstream attention. If she starts investing significant time, energy, and brand capital into golf, even just for sponsorships and appearances, the WNBA risks losing their most precious marketing asset to another sport. And the LPGA knows this. They're not naive. This isn't some feel-good collaboration between friendly sports organizations. This is a battle for cultural dominance, a fight for mindshare in an increasingly crowded entertainment landscape. As one sports business journal analyst brilliantly put it, the LPGA signed Caitlin Clark's narrative, not just her athletic ability. They're betting that her name carries more weight than entire leagues, and honestly, they might be absolutely right. So what does Caitlin Clark herself gain from all this? And more importantly, is she leaving the WNBA? Let's cut through the speculation. She's not leaving basketball anytime soon. She has a contract with the Indiana Fever, and after a well-deserved break for training and recovery, she's expected back on the court for the upcoming season. But this LPGA deal offers something uniquely valuable. Reports suggest it includes access to elite training facilities, flexible media commitments strategically timed around her basketball schedule, and appearances alongside LPGA superstars like Nelly Korda and Lexi Thompson. We could see her in pro-am competitions, charity golf events, commercials, and potentially even mixed exhibitions or celebrity invitationals. Sources indicate the LPGA is considering a crossover cup, combining elite golfers with athletes from other sports, with Clark as its natural centerpiece. And here's what's genuinely remarkable. The reception from within the LPGA has been overwhelmingly positive. Nelly Korda welcomed Clark to the LPGA family on Instagram, expressing excitement about introducing their game to new audiences. Golf legend Aria Jutanugarn tweeted that Clark's competitive spirit fits perfectly in golf. That level of endorsement is massive. It signals that Clark isn't being viewed as an outsider trying to muscle into their territory. She's seen as a bridge, a connector between sports, audiences, and generations. Which brings us to the bigger question, the one that keeps WNBA executives up at night. In an era where female athletes have historically fought tooth and nail for recognition, for fair compensation, for even a fraction of the attention their male counterparts receive, Caitlin Clark has flipped the entire script. The leagues are now competing for her. She's not begging for opportunities. She's not grateful for whatever scraps the sports world throws her way. At just 23 years old, she's become a nexus, a vital connection point between two of the most prominent women's sports globally. The WNBA will undoubtedly try reinforcing their ties with Clark, perhaps offering more lucrative media rights or exclusive marketing incentives. The LPGA will leverage her presence in upcoming events and social media campaigns. But the truth is, we're witnessing something profound, a fundamental shift in how women's sports operate, how female athletes are valued, and what power actually looks like in this evolving landscape. For years, female athletes clawed for attention, for investment, for legitimacy. Now, Caitlin Clark doesn't just command attention, she redistributes it. She doesn't just participate in the game, she changes the rules. Whether she's sinking a three-pointer from 30 feet or hitting a perfect drive down the fairway, she's demonstrating something crucial to every young athlete watching. Brilliance knows no boundaries. Excellence transcends individual sports. And true cultural power? It doesn't ask for permission. The WNBA might be feeling uneasy about the LPGA's bold maneuver, but one thing is undeniably, irrefutably clear. The excitement, the competition, and the sheer influence within women's sports have never been higher. So as fans, as observers, as witnesses to this unfolding transformation, all we can do is watch history being written in real time. Because this is only the beginning. And if you think this story ends here, you haven't been paying attention. The question isn't whether Caitlin Clark will continue breaking barriers. The question is, which barriers will she shatter next?